so that it can also be changed, because maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we would like to say peoplekind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly. Yes, thank you.
We can all learn from each other.
Read my lips.
Welcome to Righting the Right with Larissa and Dan, the brother and sister that you'll want to argue with as much as your own.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
But it's political bullshit.
So what do you think of Dan?
He's a jackass.
Because our country is going to hell.
So what do you think about Larissa?
She has been a real disaster for a lot of people, including the Democrats, who frankly can't stand her.
They're losers, they're babies.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
And now, here's Brother Dan and Sister Larissa.
Hey, welcome back to the Righting the Right podcast. I'm Brother Dan, and I'm here with Sister Larissa, who thankfully didn't interrupt me this time.
For the third time, because we've now re-recorded it.
We had to re-record our intro here because I started choking on water. So how are you supposed to clear your throat when the water you tried to drink is what you're choking on? So as you heard in our intro, we're basically just going to be laughing at Canadian politics today.
Which sounds good. That's easy to do.
We've got pretty boy Justin Trudeau, who basically makes me proud that Donald Trump is my president, because that's where we are right now. When you have a prime minister,
one side or the other. There's the whole world's going crazy.
When your choices are somebody who, one, isn't even smart enough to realize he should have corrected mankind to humankind and changed it to peoplekind, because there might be a little bit of inbreeding involved there. I don't know.
Well, I mean, doesn't he have royalty background?
I don't know. I know his dad was apparently like a super smart dude. He was a previous prime minister. And from what I've heard, he was super liberal, but from even conservative minds say, there is no doubt that was a smart guy. And they said, Justin Trudeau unfortunately sounds like a kid who sat in the room and overheard his dad having intelligent conversations with intelligent people, and he's kind of trying to remember what he heard his dad say. Like, that was the description I heard of Justin Trudeau.
Wow,
that's
so sad.
That's who he is. He's just like, I think this sounds smart. And then
and I also think he's pandering too, of course.
I don't think he is. I actually think he's dumb. I do. And I usually try to, I didn't think George Bush was dumb. I think George Bush was an intelligent person. I think he was bad with his words.
Yeah.
There's a difference. I don't think Justin Trudeau is actually a very intelligent person. I don't. I think, and this isn't me hating on somebody because of his politics. I think Hillary Clinton is much smarter than Donald Trump.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, this isn't about their politics. I mean, I think Barack Obama was very eloquent like Trudeau, but super intelligent.
Far more intelligent, yeah.
So this isn't about politics. This is about the fact that I just unfortunately think this guy might not be very intelligent. He seems to be across, because he is very eloquent. That's the thing. He's not George Bush stumbling on his words. He says things smoothly. He just doesn't seem to be able to handle a coherent thought.
And he seems like the kind of guy that would be just a nice guy, which also helps, when you have that nice guy mentality.
Well, that was the thing with George Bush, was the polls were, if I could just have a beer with that dude, we had a guy like John Kerry, he ran against Al Gore, who couldn't have been any more the antithesis of that. Yeah. Like, who wants to go have a beer with John Kerry?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And who wants to be in the same room as Al Gore? I mean, come on. So we're not only going to talk about Peoplekind and Justin Trudeau in that insanity, we're also going to talk about the legislation that Canada just passed to change the lyrics to "O Canada," and we have to take out "in all thy son's command" because that's too sexist, and make it a little more gender neutral. So
Well, there we go. Well, as long as they change sons to Peoplekind.
yeah, to all thy people kind, oh Canada.
I don't know.
I
don't know there.
The funny thing is my knowledge of "Oh Canada" was from the episode of that '70s show when they were trying to sneak beer back from Canada, and they stood up and sang it with the Mounties.
Oh. Your references to most politics come from sitcoms.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. I was raised in an apolitical family.
Well, so on Twitter, this is how I found out about it. Dan actually tagged me in a tweet for Justin Trudeau's comment, and someone tweeted that we are becoming real life South Park. And I love that comment. I'm sorry, because it's so the truth. It's scary. This world is becoming South Park.
Yeah, and Justin Trudeau has beady eyes and a big flapping head.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it is. Hey, buddy, you're not allowed to say mankind, buddy. What are you talking about, friend? Hey, guy, I'm the Prime Minister. That's literally what I have more respect for the South Park Prime Minister than I do for Justin Trudeau. I mean, that's literally where we are right now. Oh, God. We're not that far off from blame Canada and a war. I mean, we're really not.
Yeah. No, it's sad. But then we had the people on the right being just as stupid to me in the tweets. So I'm sorry, I know this is totally off topic, but it relates to this tweet. Dan's Twitter handle is
Last True Liberal.
Last True Liberal. So I wanted to tag him in the South Park comment because I thought it was hilarious. And so I said, best comment in this thread, I said, best comment I've heard, at Last True Liberal. So everyone thought I was saying that Trudeau's comment was the best thing I've ever heard, and that he's the last true liberal. So it turned into a bunch of conservative snowflakes. Is this what I said?
No, the funny thing is I just said this to Larissa a moment ago. Go ahead, keep going.
So all the conservative snowflakes immediately started telling me how stupid I am, go back to your pageants, you're a dumb girl, those types of comments. And
Which were all fair and true. But go ahead.
Shut up. But then but I'm like, wait a minute. Who's dumb here? You don't even know what a Twitter handle looks like. That I wasn't calling him the last true liberal, that I was tagging someone who is the last true liberal. And I was saying the South Park comment, which in order to have read my comment, you had to have opened the South Park comment to begin with. It was just a bunch of morons. And then the response to that was, so the conspiracy is Twitter is the problem here. I'm like, no, it's you calling me stupid for being stupid. Anyway, no matter what, it turned into a bunch of snowflakes all the way around.
Well,
a world full of Twitter snowflakes.
The part that scares me the most just about his comment in general was the reaction from the crowd. That's why we played the whole clip, so you could hear them cheer and then say, we all learned from each other. Yes, we all learned how to get dumb from listening to each other. It was like that scene in Billy Madison where it was like,
I'm dumber.
Everyone in this room is dumber for having heard what you just said.
Yes.
That was where we were, and they erupted in cheers. Basically, he might as well have said nib high football rules at the end of it.
That would have been the best. Then I would have liked that.
Yeah,
then
but he's
I would
not
have went with it.
But it's not to be funny. It's
Oh,
not
I
satire.
know.
He's a
I know.
moron. He is a moron.
Well, he's part of Peoplekind.
Luckily,
Luckily, I'm part of humankind or mankind. I'm not part of Peoplekind. So.
Yeah, well, let me mansplain to you, like Justin Trudeau did, to that woman. There was a female who was saying that too.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's so dumb. There's no humankind. It's people. We prefer the term peoplekind. And the way he said it too, it was that like smug, eyes closed.
And he had his legs crossed and.
Yeah, that part. That's just the arrogance of a stupid prime minister. That's just a guy who got elected because he's a pretty boy and he has a famous political name. That's who he is. So it is what it is. The fact that the Senate is passing laws to change the lyrics to the national anthem to be gender neutral goes along the lines of what's going on right now in Canada. Like I said, it amazes me right now that the Prime Minister is Justin Trudeau And the most vilified person in the country is probably the antithesis of Justin Trudeau. A super intelligent man who's having a logical and reasonable argument about everything, who actually respects transgender people, and he has basically said that if someone wants me to call him by a preferred pronoun, he or she, I will gladly do that out of respect for the person to the gender that they appear to be. However, he's transphobic because he won't use their preferred Z's and Zer and all that stuff. It's Jordan Peterson, by the way.
Yeah, trans people aren't the ones who want that, though. It's people speaking on their behalf, I'm putting in quotes.
It's people who are trying to jump on to the oppression Olympics and identity movement. And
because it's
claim
actually
that they're
hurting the trans
that they're I'm pangender and all these made up things because they're not transgender.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
They want to be something. It's this desperate.
And they don't fit in anywhere, so they have to create something. I think all of this is just an excuse for you to fanboy about Jordan Peterson.
Everything is an excuse for me to fanboy about Jordan Peterson. We agreed we wanted to do something light after the Heavy Memo podcast, and it was a lot of me just basically reading a memo, which 45 minutes of me reading something and then giving my opinion, and Larissa going, yep.
Yep.
It's the yep movement.
President.
Yep. Anybody that's listening, it's 50-50, you're a wrestling fan, so.
50-50, you're a wrestling fan.
If you like our podcast, there's a chance. There's a lot of people that like wrestling. A lot of closet wrestling fans out there.
Yeah,
so.
They have to be closet, though.
They do. Like, because Tide detergent won't advertise on Monday Night Raw because they didn't want to be labeled as the detergent that wrestling fans use.
But yet people are eating them. Tide Pods.
Probably not wrestling fans, ironically.
No, I know. That's what.
So, either way, yes, Jordan Peterson, Justin Trudeau. One of them's vilified, one of them's running the country. What the hell is wrong with Canada? I mean, I'm at the point now where I am ready to blame Canada. It really...
Well, it's starting to trickle down to us.
Well, everything that does happen in Canada happens a little later here. And that's where you get into the bill that Jordan Peterson has been outspoken against and the forced speech. That's what this changing of the lyrics of the national anthem is.
It's forced speech.
It's more forced speech. It's allowing the social Marxists to just dictate everything and tell us what we're allowed to do. There's a difference between taking out lyrics that, I mean, I don't believe in changing the lyrics of something like that. If you're going to change your national anthem, then just have a new national anthem.
Yeah.
But to say you're going to change the lyrics...
I mean, it would be different if they were talking about slavery in the song or something along those lines. But that there were actually harmful words in the song, but there's nothing harmful about the word in there. I mean, I know people are using the excuse that it's harmful, but how does the word son become a harmful word?
It's gender specific. That's my point. That's the relation to this bill.
No, I understand that's what they're saying, but
that the Canadian Human Rights Commission, it's going to turn into a hate crime. It's to take away
our identities. I mean, we're no longer going to be allowed to have identities.
It's to take away our freedom to be individuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it's all about. This is a control thing. It's the same group that runs the Human Rights Commission that attacked from Wilfrid Laurier. It's the same mentality that attacked Lindsay Shepherd, that goes after Jordan Peterson, that all of that. Canada right now seems to... I've always thought America was the forefront of the freedom of speech debate. It really does feel like it's happening in Canada first, because their freedom of speech is directly under attack. And they don't have the same level.
But they're actually changing legislation for it.
Because they don't have the same level of freedom of speech that we do.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, like, again, I'm not the biggest Milo fan. I do believe he's deliberately provocative, but and yes, I know I'm a cuck because I have to preface my statement, but I don't think there's anything wrong with separating yourself from something you want to be separated from. So that being said, he has said himself that coming from the UK, they believe freedom of speech is a little more controlled. They don't believe in the ultimate freedom like we have here. And he has even said that as a foreigner, that what we have here is special compared to anywhere else. And we can never give it up, because as long as we have it here, then indirectly the rest of the world still kind of has it. And that's the importance of it right now. And
it's very true. I haven't thought about it that way, but that is the truth.
They're taking it in Canada right now. And that's what this is. This is an attack on freedom of speech. And everyone can say, oh, you know, it's just to protect. We don't want to hurt feelings. Everything is always about protecting someone.
About protecting feelings. It's not even about protecting someone. It's not protecting their life. It's protecting their feelings.
But it is protecting their life. The suicide rate of trans people are almost 50%. So what if you're transgender? What if you're a boy who now identifies as a girl, and you hear that in the lyric and it's harmful?
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Exactly. Because you don't care. Now, if they
No,
were children,
and I'm a woman.
But if they were children, you just let them come into our country illegally and no problem. So,
Yep, they could just run in and become instant citizens.
path to citizenship is...
No, instant. It's instant.
Yeah, no, that's the path to citizenship,
Yeah.
crossing the border. That's
Yeah.
the path.
Yeah.
If you just take that
That's
path, you get here a lot quicker. You just pass go, collect $200.
We're assuming you've all listened to it since that's our most popular podcast.
And by popular, she means 3 people have listened to it.
Exactly.
Each of us.
And the CIA.
And... that wasn't as funny as we're laughing. But no, it's... I completely lost my train of thought. But the point is they're attacking the foundation of what we're allowed to think. This is literally thought policing, because the saying "son" triggers a thought, and it's a thought and a thought and a thought. It's about policing.
People that don't even think about the song. They just stand there, put their hand on their heart, and do the song because they have to, and then move on.
What is it with national anthems being under attack by the radical left right now?
I don't know.
I mean, seriously,
Maybe that's why Canada jumped on this.
They hate national pride. I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah.
It's the
Well,
globalist movement.
yeah,
it's about shitting all over the country. That's what it is. Tearing down that identity as a Canadian. If they attack the anthem, I mean, again, that's why you always got to be careful no matter where it starts. It's always going to start with an area we can all agree. Yeah, let's attack freedom of speech. This is the thing that gets really, really hard. Do we want to defend the freedom of speech for a group like NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association? No, we don't. But as long as there's free speech isn't harming or inciting harm, we got to be really careful, because the whole point is not to defend speech you like. It's about defending speech you don't like.
And there's a difference between speech and actions, right? I mean, NAMBLA actually wants to create action where that's okay. There is a difference between talking about it and actually doing it. And that's where the line is different. And that also, I mean, there's a reason why there's a network dedicated to murder, right? We can watch that all day long. But can someone do those things? There's a huge difference.
Yeah, but you can't even watch. Yeah, and you shouldn't be able
No.
to watch it. I don't know what you're... Like, there shouldn't be a NAMBLA channel, if that's what you mean.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying talking about it is different than doing it. And creating child pornography is doing something.
And when the ACLU...
You're not actually watching the murders on the murder channel.
When the ACLU fought for the freedom for NAMBLA to hand out pamphlets on ways to approach young boys... That's a violation. That's an incite.
Yeah.
Inciting
that's
violence.
Action.
There's a difference. That was my issue. The ACLU, I've never liked. Don't get me wrong, but I've always held them in a distant relationship, I guess, just in the sense of defending freedom, because they will defend freedom of speech even they disagree with, and I will give them that. But sometimes I feel like they only defend bad speech just to turn public will against it.
Yeah.
Like, they won't defend the freedom of the Christian who doesn't want to do something. They'll only defend the freedom of the person that wants to tear down the Christian. Because defending the Christian is a popular motive, and that won't shift the culture. It feels like they only want to do things that shift the culture in a negative direction. So I'm starting to become more and more anti-ACLU, where I've always viewed them as an ally of free speech with no moral compass. It's kind of the way I've always viewed them. So I feel like what's happening right now in Canada is they are using this as, like I said, an attack on nationalism, an attack on identity, on national pride and identity. It's when you hear people argue, I mean, here in America, that illegal immigration, using the word illegal immigration is racist. Being against illegal immigration is racist. Saying America's the greatest nation on earth is racist.
Saying family and church and
yeah, but that's MSNBC extreme. I guess it's the same thing. It really is no different. You're right. We're at this point now where they're attacking all the institutions. I mean, look at the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl has always, football in general, but the Super Bowl specifically has always been such a unifying moment in America. Half the country
watches it even if their team's not in it. Yeah.
It's a gathering.
Yeah.
It's like Christmas. It really is. It's probably the second most gathered holiday of the year, maybe third behind Christmas and Thanksgiving. The Super Bowl is probably third, and it's with friends. It's actually the one where you go outside of your tribe and you interact in other tribes, and it's such a unifying force. And that's under attack. And I'm really torn on this because I'm really upset with the NFL for the way they've handled everything as a lifelong fan. But also at the same time, I feel like, one, it's an attack on masculinity. I do believe that's why they're going after the NFL. And I almost feel like if we do boycott, then they win because that's what they want. They're trying to drive a wedge between the base fan of the NFL and the masculine nature of the sport. So I almost feel like we need to push harder. Rather than boycott, we need to literally force action to get Roger Goodell out, to allow the NFL to become what it was again. I'm using that as an example, but
they're all going to move over to WWE Raw. Do they do Raw now?
XFL. No, XFL has announced. Vince McMahon announced he's bringing it back.
Yeah, I actually just watched this whole. I don't know why. I ended up watching it by myself, even though Eric was there. But it was this whole episode about the history of the XFL.
Was it the 30 for 30? The ESPN 30 for 30?
Yeah. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah. They were actually, people forget, or not forget, but people don't realize the XFL was profitable.
Yeah.
The XFL was growing in popularity.
Well, a lot of the things that they do in the NFL came from XFL.
They got buried.
Yeah.
Dick Ebersol, who was the head of NBC Sports, has such a strong relationship with Vince McMahon, and people don't realize that they go way back to when.
Was he the guy in the video with him that I was watching, or the show?
He was on there.
Yeah, they were eating with each other at the end or having drinks.
That I don't remember, but either way, but Dick Ebersol was a big part of that coming to be because of his relationship with Vince.
Is he the one who created Sunday Night Football?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
then that was the guy
Yes.
in that. Okay.
And it was because they used to do Saturday Night Main Event with Vince, and they had this great relationship together. And he's one of the few people that Vince admired and looked up to, because Vince is a big ego, that kind of person. Yeah. But the way they just work together. So this is unimportant for the podcast, but the point is that I believe the XFL was dragged down. I do. I believe there's always an attack on the outside. The conspiracy theorist in me. I worked at Washington Mutual. I believe Washington Mutual was attacked and dragged down by the banking industry. They weren't doing anything that any other bank wasn't doing. They weren't in any situation any other bank wasn't. Yet they were seized by the FDIC, and then the banks were bailed out.
Yeah.
It's not coincidental. The attack.
Well, that happened to several. SunTrust, same thing.
But Washington Mutual was the biggest. Washington Mutual was the fourth largest bank in the country at the time.
Yeah.
And just handed to J.P. Morgan Chase for pennies.
But I'm saying there was other.
Yeah, countrywide.
Countrywide.
But look at what they're doing to Wells Fargo right now. Wells Fargo is under constant attack because they probably aren't playing the game they're being told to. And it's just one of those crazy things right now that so many things are under attack, and I feel like it's just chaos right now. It's just the social media and the internet has opened up information for so many people that they're losing control of the narrative. I mean, we talked
Well,
about
and
it
you're
on the
not
last
even going
podcast.
after the people doing the really bad things, like using slaves or using child labor or the things, they're going after. It's such a power struggle.
And we got to tread really lightly here, because all of a sudden you're talking pro-China and pro-Iran and all these other things, as pro-Russia. These countries, the BRIC countries, are anti-globalist. They're fighting against the globalists. And now I don't know what's true about Vladimir Putin and what's not. I hear good things from Russian people. I've heard out of their own mouths, he is beloved. His 80% approval rating is legitimate. He is so loved. He protects the people. That there's so much local corruption that they need the strong federal government, and that the people he's jailing, his opponents, are legitimately
Criminals. Yeah.
But they'll also then acknowledge that he's a brutal person and that he is a bit of a dictator. Like, it's this catch-22 with him. That
it's almost like he needs to be that to clean up what's happening over there.
And does that make it okay? I'm not justifying it.
I don't know.
I'm saying I don't know what's true or what's not. I don't know what's true or what's not about China. Everything we hear with all these U.S. companies going into China and everything like that they're just transitioning so much to a capitalist society. I mean, we're way off track from Canada right now, but it's just this globalist movement is just tearing down
kind of
borders.
us talking about world problems.
Globalist. It's the globalist versus the nationalist. That's really what it is right now. And this is where we talk about the righting the right, and it needs to come back to this every time, is we can't lose focus of the fact that nationalist in the sense of proud of our country, but we need to remember that all of the people of our country are our brothers and sisters. It's not
just the people we like their opinions on.
And it's not, we can't counter their identity politics with our identity politics. And that's what Jordan Peterson's been talking a lot about lately, is if we get into this postmodernist dominance hierarchy and this battle for dominance, and he talked about that with Ben Shapiro on their interview with Dave Rubin. And if you're listening to us, you probably already listened to those, but if you haven't, absolutely listen to that, and listen to the Weinstein brothers together on Dave Rubin. But they specifically talk about, if you're just battling for dominance, you're almost creating a playing field, which is what they want, that the white nationalist movement will grow. So then that way more people will reject it, and it'll allow them to eliminate the power struggle in America. And
but still keep all the rich white people at the top.
But we can't play their game. That's the point. We can't fall into that, and it's hard. And I never struggle with like identity politics. I never do. Like I never sit there and think, oh, I need to go stand up for the white man, or like I don't. That's not what I'm talking about. The internal struggle we need to battle is the right wing movement. We can't get blurred into this alt-right.
Which they're absolutely trying to do. They're trying to blur us into the same group.
And if we don't draw that line by making comments like I did about Milo, again, you saw, God, when the memo came out, and all I tweeted when the memo came out was, well, this was a dud. It was basically exactly what we already knew. Nothing salacious, nothing with it. The Republicans hyped it up so much it turned out to be a dud. But still a big deal. And that was kind of what I said. And then Ben Shapiro tweeted out something similar, and I commented on that and said something, and I got attacked by both sides. One guy was like, oh, how can your Twitter says you're anti-Trump and you're anti-establishment. You can't do that. And I'm like, well, for one, I didn't say I'm anti-Trump. I said I'm not exactly pro-Trump. That's what I said, because I'm just on the fence on the dude still. I still don't know what to make of Trump. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely anti-establishment, which is why I'm anti-left. But as I went through those tweets, I was getting attacked. One side's calling me a cuck. The next side's calling me a knuckle dragger. And then I'm being called a soy boy. And then I'm being, what was the other one? I got called a Russian bot.
Yeah.
I mean,
you get called Russian bot all the time.
It's amazing to me that if you just voice something outside of that two-sided argument, that binary, just blah, pick one. We can't keep falling into that. And if we don't draw that line and become a reasonable right, which is what we wanted the name of our podcast to be.
But thanks to that stupid.
Well, we don't say
website.
stupid, but some religious website.
But it was
Religion and Politics
insane.
Blur website. Well, I don't know about that. I don't remember. I'm just saying we need to do that. It doesn't make you a cuck. It doesn't make you a soy boy if you want to draw a line between yourself and the white identitarian movement that's countering. But I would argue in some points it's not crazy, it's misguided. There's people right now attaching themselves to that white identitarian movement as a counter because they only see that there's two sides. And they're going to choose the side where they're like, well, if this is the battle for dominance, I'm going to go be dominant.
Don't be that person, though. Don't attach yourself to the crazy just so you fit in somewhere.
But that's not who we're talking to here. What I'm talking about is how do we appeal to those people? Because anybody listening to us, anybody listening to this, isn't that person.
Or if you're listening to it and you are that person, you hate us tremendously and you're still calling us a soy boy cuck.
You're the person that watches Ben
dragger.
Shapiro and sends him anti-Semitic tweets because you think he's a Zionist, Jew monger, whatever. I don't know what the hell, all that crap. But the point is we need to be willing to do that. And this idea that, it's self-censorship and blah, blah. I'm like, if it's self-censorship for you to have to say, I don't like this, and just
Who cares? Be self-censored. Why is it a taboo thing to censor yourself? It's okay to have moral values.
And I'm not saying censor yourself from not saying things.
No.
I'm saying censor yourself, but when you say something, clearly define it. That's it. That's the opposite of self-censorship. And now that extreme right movement is trying to grow by labeling this. Kindness is not weakness.
No.
And that is starting to become something. What I notice is the people who jump up and down and scream about the anthem protest, which again, I'm opposed to them. But the people that scream the loudest about it usually didn't serve in the military.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Now, that being said, I'm saying usually. Of course, there's people that served in the military that were furious about it. And I don't blame them. And it is a slap in the face to them. And if they view it that way, that's their own view. But don't be the opposite. I'm defending this indignant group right now. That's what I'm doing. I'm the righteous person. You're just a right-wing social justice warrior. It's just your definition of social justice.
It's different.
There's no difference. And that's what we need to stop that crap. And we need this Canada shit and what's going on and the attacks on Jordan Peterson are because the right doesn't usually draw that line well. And he's so damn good at it. That's why he's the leader. I view him as the leader of the movement right now. And I think that's kind of universal.
A movement that needs to happen everywhere.
Yes. But I'm saying even the people like, I don't want to mention names because I don't want to throw some people under the bus because I do believe it's misguided right now and not evil. So I don't want to sit here and start slinging arrows at good people who are just saying dumb things because they're just pissed off right now. So...
But I think you can even be pissed off. Like earlier, Dan and I were listening to multiple videos and podcasts of Bill Burr, who's very angry about everything.
And
right?
that's why I love him so
yeah,
much.
but he's also still
How can
kind.
he not be angry? He's a short, redheaded, bald guy. He's bald and redhead somehow. Like who wouldn't be angry?
The point is he still has a way of being angry and opinionated and still drawing a line, and he does draw that line, and he still shows, one of the things that I pointed out was what I liked about him is he clearly is aware of social injustices in this world, and he talks about them. He turns them into jokes to point out the hypocrisy of it, but in a way that's saying, hey, these are real problems, and I think he does a good job without coming off weak in any way. He's the opposite of that. No one listens to him and thinks he's weak. And I like
It's kind
that.
of weird to consider someone that promotes genocide on each of his comedy specials as a weak person.
Well.
No soy boy and that genocidal person.
The point is there's a way to be angry and still
And for the
get
record,
your
Bill
point
Burr is
across.
my favorite comedian. I'm joking about him being genocidal.
Yeah.
He is my favorite comedian.
Yeah. He's very funny. He's very funny, and he does it, and he's able to make everyone laugh.
And it's
that's
because,
what I like.
and you know why? Because he's not an ideologue. He's not an extreme right wing person. He doesn't identify with that. He rejects the white identitarian movement.
He doesn't come across, but he doesn't come across weak for doing it.
No, but he's ultra conservative too.
Yeah.
And you can hear it in his views.
Absolutely. Well, he calls himself a Republican. I just watched a video.
The thing
yesterday.
on Conan where he says that he tiptoes around that too.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to pigeonhole himself, and I respect him, and we kind of do the same thing.
Oh, of course.
We try really hard to of course when I say I'm a Goldwater Republican, I'm socially liberal but I'm fiscally conservative. I'm a right leaning. I'm right of center. I'm a conservative libertarian. I'm a classical liberal. All these different labels because I don't want to identify as a Republican because that tribe is corrupt.
Yeah. Just
So-
like the same reason we don't want to. Well, there's multiple reasons why we don't want to identify as Democrat.
And I
But
don't
the
want to.
point is we're still in a tribe that I'm finding every single day is bigger than any other tribe. I think who we are and where we are is where most people are. Maybe they're center left, but they're still where we are.
Look at a total progressive, a dude who, when the story in Evergreen broke about Brett Weinstein, I said, well, this is what happens. You play with fire, you get burned. You fester in this liberal cesspool. You feed into it. He's getting what he deserves. And I said that. And then I heard him speak out and say, no, this was a long time coming. I've been fighting against it internally for a long time. It's just finally spilled over into the public. And then I've come to listen to him. He is so hyper progressive. I disagree with him on so many things. The dude still believes Bernie Sanders would have been a good president. But I view him as part of my tribe. In tribe in the sense I want to be careful with that because I'm tribalism, us versus them, and we're going to run around and start, war paint. And no, I'm not talking anything like that. I'm saying we need to identify people who stand for American values.
And it's also this anti-corruption. I mean, I think that's ultimately what it is, anti-corruption movement. And I think there's a lot more people. I mean, they had that conference this weekend in New Orleans, the Unrig the System, and there were thousands of people at that event who were open to hearing both sides, and it was fantastic. There are a lot of people out there like us, a lot of people like us, and I think
most of the people are like us.
I absolutely agree. The problem is we're allowing the media to make us think differently.
We need to be the extreme moderates.
Yes, I like that.
That's the tough thing to do because
that should have been our podcast
when
name.
you're extreme
extreme
right or
moderates.
left, it's easy to identify. We talked about this with Bill, who you're helping with this campaign, about when you run as a third party, you have to clearly define who you are. Because if you don't, then you're just counting on people to either identify you as what they want, which will usually be the opposite of what you are, or the opposite of what they want. They're looking for faults. Whereas if you just say, hey, I'm part of this, then if you say I'm a Republican, then they know where you stand on everything except where you explicitly claim where you're different. Same thing if you're a Democrat. They know you where you align on everything except where you explicitly claim that you're different. If you say I'm independent, you now have to clearly define every single thing. And if not, then you're ambiguous and they will identify you as what they choose to, which will usually be not their tribe.
Yeah.
You have to overcome that objective. That's what we're battling right now, is we're battling an evil and corrupt system that only gives us two choices, and neither of those choices represent us.
And I will say it again, because I say it in probably almost every podcast, we're the only developed country in the world with a two-party system.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
We're just at a crossroads right now, and I see things happening. I see the attack on the national anthem in our country, that it's a dog whistle now to say you should stand for the anthem. They've made standing for the national anthem racist. And I say they, I mean the radical left. Again, we need to define what we're saying, because if we don't, they'll define it for us.
Yeah.
The radical left has used the NFL to do this. Those players were used.
Absolutely.
They don't want to admit that, and it sounds horrible to say that, because you never want to admit that you were a pawn in someone else's game of chess.
Of course not. And you're going to find every reason to think that you weren't.
And if you're the leader of the movement, then you're the queen on the chessboard. You never want to believe you're a pawn on the chessboard. And that's the battle we're in. And that's the question I even have to battle with myself internally. I have to question, am I now part of the Matrix rejected movement? I'm the one who rejected the system, and so now I need to go outside of the Matrix. If you're not familiar with the Matrix, the whole idea is they run a system, this two-party system essentially is what I'm going to describe in the analogy of the Matrix, is you're going to identify as one or the other. Well, there's always going to be a select few of people who are going to reject it. Am I now helping to control those people? And I battle with that, if that makes sense. Am I now just providing another narrative? Am I actually saying something helpful? I believe I am. I really do.
But here's the thing.
But that's what I battle with it is, I don't want to divide. I want to bring people together. But when I sit there and say the left is dumb, the right is dumb, blah, 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 am I uniting people? What we need to do is just realize that that's inevitable. We're never going to all agree.
No, of course not. And I think as long as you respect that other people don't agree with you, that's all that matters. It's about respect. It's not about what you believe. It's about respecting people that don't agree with you. And I can do that. What I can't respect is when you don't respect me.
Or even if you don't want to respect someone, at least acknowledging their right to it. Respecting their right to it. Not necessarily respecting the belief, but respecting their right to hold the belief.
And I think also we talk a lot about, yes, the left and the right, but we're also talking about political leaders most of the time, right? I mean, they're the ones controlling everything. The media, the political leaders. It's not, I genuinely believe even on the left, I genuinely believe that the people themselves are actually good people who believe that what they're doing is the right thing. I genuinely believe that. I know the people that feel that way. They have allowed the media to tell them that the only good party is the Democratic Party, right? They're
that if you vote Republican, then you're racist. They're the party of white men.
Yes, and they have taught people that forever. And so of course people are going to believe that. So
and the reason why is because the Republican Party is fighting for the status quo, and the status quo shows that white men are the most powerful people right now. The white men aren't the most powerful. The most powerful are white men. And there's a difference between those two statements.
Yeah.
I'm a white man with no power whatsoever. We're recording this podcast because we're trying to influence. We don't have influence.
He has such little power. We're doing this in the meeting room while he's supposed to be working.
Yes. Yes. But that's all I'm saying is it's now just the Democrat movement has just literally painted themselves into a corner of anti-American because American is white male and we're against that. And now that's what they're saying. But America's not white male. And that's the opposite of what America is. We are a melting pot. We are multicultural.
That's what makes us so great. And I think those are the things. We are not like every other country. All these other, what I see, what makes me the most angry is all these people are like, I wish we were like this country, and I wish we were like this country. And I'm like, oh, you wish we didn't have diversity is what you're saying. That is ultimately what they're saying every time they say they wish they were like another country. You're saying you wish we weren't diverse, because that's the difference between America and every other country in this entire world.
We're the only country like us.
Only country. There's
no
other country even close to us.
What's amazing is over and over and over again, under the unifying force of American pride and freedom. And that is why it's a danger that this is under attack, because we're losing our unifying force. Everyone has always been able to say, yeah, we disagree on X or we disagree on Y, but it never mattered because we always agreed on A. We always agreed on the most fundamental thing: freedom of speech, freedom, your
First Amendment
right to your belief, and that's fine. Just
your religion,
let someone else believe theirs. I'm just saying, just that one right to belief. It's okay to believe what you believe as long as that belief never crosses over into someone else's life. And now that wedge has been drawn now, and that's the issue. That fundamental unifying force of American value, of pride in your. What is so bad about being proud of living in a country where you're free? If it's not okay to be proud of living in America, but yet it's okay to defend people who are giving everything they have to come here. That's the thing that I don't understand. If America is so racist and so evil and all these horrible things, then why are the Democrats fighting to bring people in? Why are they trying to bring people into this racist nation?
Because they want more votes.
I know, but I'm saying it's so
I know.
Their own structure is just set to destroy itself, and it's falling apart, and that I'm happy about that. My fear is what's going to rise from the ashes on our side, on the right, and that's what this podcast is literally all about, is making sure that it's the Jordan Peterson view of ideas and freedom without the collective ideology, and taking that out completely. Not countering their collective with our collective and our that and that. It's defining it now and aligning it with this movement of, I find myself being such a different person. There's not a lot of Christians in the circle of people that I follow and listen to. There's not a lot of, white men. There really aren't that many in the group that I follow and I listen to. They're Jewish men, they're white Jewish men, but most of the voices I listen to are Jewish, or Jordan Peterson, I guess, is really the only white man in the group. I love Thomas Sowell. The people I follow, it's just a whole different thing, and I don't want that to define the movement. I want it to be about the ideas, and I need to be careful on using the word movement too. We're not revolutionary. We're not changing anything. We're just trying to take back the pride of being here.
We're trying to stop what's happening.
But
it's not so much take. I don't think we're there yet. It hasn't happened.
We need to make America great again.
Yeah. That was, you had to throw that in there.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that. But that's why people attach themselves to that movement, because that's what people want, is just to be proud and not taking away your identity and your purpose. And we're eliminating people's purpose. We're eliminating what unites us with each other. Now everyone looks and they're like, oh, is he that? Is he that?
We have to fit into a box. I had a friend, that's a great example, tell me that he was helped start the Occupy movement in Seattle, and they found out that he was related to his stepdad was related to someone in the 1%, and because there was a relation to the 1%, they kicked him out of the movement. He was not allowed to be part of it. And he said since then he found that every group that he's tried to be a part of forced him into this box, and if he didn't fit into that box, he was kicked out. And he said it was something that he's a gay man who felt that he struggled his whole life to try to fit in, and now he doesn't fit into anyone's boxes, and so he's not allowed anywhere. And that's a horrible, horrible place to be. It's a horrible place. We should never force anyone to feel that way. Here he grows up as a kid and is picked on by kids and bullies and things for not fitting in, and then he becomes an adult where now you can fit in and be the person you want to be, and you're now told, sorry, you can't be that. And it's just an awful awful place. We should be able to be who we want to be without consequence.
And him being a gay man who fought that his whole life, and he finally was able to come out and be who he was, and now all of a sudden he's feeling it again, but in just a completely different way. That's got to be very mentally defeating.
Yeah, it was, and that's what he said. He refuses to be part of any group. He says if he sees a march or any type of protest, he says he runs as far away from it as possible because it's exactly the opposite of what he wants to be a part of now.
Well, Brett Weinstein talks about that in his interview about his involvement in Occupy and how he was a supporter of it and part of the movement, and when he just saw it, just instantly got corrupted, and that's the problem. A movement happens and it gets corrupted.
And they were probably part of the same Occupy movement because it's Seattle.
Yeah. So it's just a scary proposition.
But our Occupy movement got violent.
That was
Didn't it?
WTO.
Oh, it's WTO.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay.
Our Occupy movement. I support Occupy in theory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it got corrupt and it turned into socialism.
Well, because it always turns into a power struggle. Anytime you give someone power, unfortunately, it gets taken advantage of, and that's just human nature. I mean, it's unfortunate.
And that's why we just need to stay strong to our principles and our beliefs. That's what this has to be about, and there's nothing wrong with defining it. There's nothing wrong with saying thy son's command. There's nothing wrong with saying mankind. There's nothing wrong
with being a man, which isn't even what that was about, but it's okay to be a man.
It's okay to be white.
Yeah, it's okay to be yourself. That's the point. It's okay to be who you are.
It's okay to praise Keck. That's gonna be the one that sinks me.
Yeah.
That line right there.
Yeah. In your future when we're
it's
super
okay.
famous.
So on that note, thanks again for listening.
CIA's coming knocking on your door.
Yeah. So our first podcast or our first download has already happened, and we haven't even posted this yet.
There we go.
They're listening. All right, have a good one. We'll see you next week.